Welcome to the first episode of Tea Time with Sam Light. In this new series, I'm going to basically sit down and have a good old chat at my desk with some interesting people from the kiteboard industry. I want to dive deep into their kiteboarding careers, when they first saw kiteboarding, when they learnt, how they got sponsored, their best competition results, and most memorable trips. I want to share their funny, interesting stories with you guys. So my first guest is Tom Court, my good buddy from the Isle of Wight. We've shared so many good memories together, so I'm really excited to see what he has to say. But thanks for tuning in. Please bear with me, this is my first episode, but I'm really excited about plenty more episodes to come. So subscribe if you're not already, make yourselves a cup of tea, and let's get started.
I'm trusting you with the full editorial content of my mouth.
I've just hit record, so we're in.
Okay, we're in.
The
Here we
first
go.
special guest. Welcome, Tom Court.
Oh,
First
cheers,
episode
mate.
of Tea Time with Sam.
Tea time with Sam. It's strange not to be boiling the kettle up there with you
I know.
right now, but
I've got a cup of tea.
Time of day, I went for the beer, but
I was tempted for a beer, but I thought I'd go with the tea because of the name.
Yeah. Well, it does make sense. Yeah, it might spiral out of control if it was another pint with Sam.
I might have to get a beer halfway through. We'll see.
Let's see how you go. It looks like it's empty. Is that? It's an empty cup.
So where are you at, mate? Where are you at during your quarantine?
I made it back to the Isle of Wight, so I'm back down on the island. Just about got back from Cape Town before this whole thing spiraled out of control. But yeah, pretty happy to have got home, really.
I can imagine the island is a good place to quarantine. You're kind of cut off from everybody as it is, so there's got to be less people there with it. You can sneak in for a surf, maybe.
Definitely, yeah. No, it's a pretty good place to be, especially in light of recent times. We've got at least solid mile of water between us and you guys back there in the UK, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, sweet. Right, so let's get into it. So the idea of this is we're going to go back. We want to go way back. We want to go all the way back to when you first saw kite surfing. Do you remember the first time you saw somebody kiting?
Yeah, I remember it really well, actually. It was at the time I was learning to windsurf, or my dad really wanted me to learn to windsurf. And I remember distinctly struggling around with this windsurfer sail, thinking it was the hardest thing ever, and seeing a kite surfer just like boost out the back. I mean, this is in 1998. I'm talking. So it was at that point in time, it was like seeing a flying saucer. Like when you saw somebody kite surfing. I mean, I think we were in Maui when I first saw it. So it was either Robbie Nash or Flash Austin or one of those original boys. And the minute I saw it, and I think also my dad saw it, it just blew windsurfing out of the water for both of us, I think. And
those must have been some of the first people ever to be kiting. Like, you must have just happened to see some of the first ever kiters really back in those years.
Yeah, I attribute a lot of my, success or relative success in kite surfing to just being at the right place at the right time in that period of my life. And my parents took me out of school when I was 8, and we traveled around the world. And at that time they were windsurfing, so they just wanted to be at the best windsurfing spots. And Maui was up there, has always been up there, and one of the places where major water sports progression happens. And we happened to be there in 1998 as Robbie Nash and all those boys were just frothing out hard on kite surfing for the first time. And I saw Lou Wayman, saw Flash Austin, saw Robbie Nash. I was like 8 or 9 at the time, so I saw it right at the conception, I think. And
it must have been over 20 years ago now.
Yeah, over 20 years ago, just. And as soon as I saw it, it was like, man, what is this sail and this massive small boat that I'm sailing around in?
Yeah, I kind of had the same thing. So when did you and your dad actually get around to learning then after that?
My dad bought a kite on that trip. Literally on that trip, he bought a Whippaker Classic 5.52 line from somebody on the beach. I forget his name, Dave Nash or somebody. And yeah, he just set about learning. I didn't really get my hands on a kite until my dad had mastered it, so it was probably like a couple of years after that. But I still learned on the Whipperker Classic. I learned in like 2000, something like that.
How old do you think you were when you first learned?
I was 11, about 11 years old, and at the time, that was no one could really kite at that point. So it was like, my dad was sending his 11-year-old son out to sea on a 2-line 5-meter kite, and it was pretty fringe learning.
Yeah, I mean, at that time you were probably only a handful of kiters. Really, it was very few. You were probably one of the youngest.
That's definitely, yeah. Well, I think that's where me and Aaron and our story joins together. Is just being some of the youngest kiters, I think, at that time in that early stage to be kiteboarding in the UK. But there were a few names like Neil Gent was kiting really early. Jeremy Waite was kiting really early. Ben Hanbury, one of the old boys, he used to kite back in the day. There were a few people doing it.
For those people that have only learned to kite surf in the last 5 years, like, how can we explain how gnarly those kites were to learn on compared to nowadays? Things have changed a lot, hey?
Wow, it's a different world. Yeah, I mean, the first 2-line kites were really gnarly, like no safety at all. You're still using a windsurf-esque chicken loop with no quick release whatsoever. So if anything went wrong, you were toast. I actually we went to the local chandlery and I got a quick release welded onto my harness. So I was welded into the chicken loop for until we realized that was pretty dangerous and was a stupid idea. But yeah, it was a different sport. I mean, the way that the equipment has progressed and been developed and sort of come on in the last 5-10 years has been, it's been incredible.
Yeah, just trying to stay at wind on one of those things was crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like being permanently hooked in full power, and you just got to hold yourself down.
Yeah, there was no, you were riding the wind, and not, I mean, you weren't flying the kite. The kite was flying you.
Yeah, and that was on the Isle of Wight. You learned.
Yeah, on the Isle of Wight, a mixture between the Isle of Wight and Fuerteventura, and that's where I actually first ever saw Kevin Langry as well. Because at that point in time, if somebody else that was about 12 years old turned up at the beach and was also kiting, it was like seeing, like a unicorn. So Kevin, I met very young. Aaron, I kind of knew from the UK, and we were some of the first young generation of kiters to grow up in the scene, I guess.
So when did you start, doing your first British BKSA competitions and actually meeting Aaron? And you think that?
I actually, hang on. I actually got a box here randomly. I know it's the wrong box, but I've got somewhere close to me. I've got one of my first British BKSA trophies. I might dig it up in a bit. Should have thought about it beforehand, but yeah, I think I've got a certificate for 2001 junior championships in the British Kite Surfing Association, and 2002 I think was also junior, and then maybe 2003 and 4 were the top flight, were the sort of more the main, like the freestyle events. And then
I actually remember. Go on, carry on.
Yeah, well, and then after that, it was as soon as I'd seen Aaron bust out to the world tour, I'm like, how come Aaron's out on sunny beaches and I'm in Skegness?
So I think I first met you at a Ross Niger comp, possibly like in 2004, maybe. I don't remember exactly, but my first BKSA was one on Hayling Island in 2003. Or no, it must have been 2004, something around then. But really only like we started hanging out a lot on the PKRA. So what year did you start going on to the world tour and hanging out with Aaron and stuff? Yeah,
well, initially we were like, when I first met Aaron, it was in Weymouth, one of the very first, well, it was my first ever BKSA event. And I only really competed with him for about a year, because the minute he basically won or maybe it was 2 years in the UK, but he won the British Championships and then was straight on up the ladder onto changing the entire sport. But
yeah, I kind of just missed you guys, because I started doing it just as you two went off to the world tour.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, Aaron left for the world tour, and then he left a little window for me to sit back in the UK and win the top flight men's, which I think actually one year I split with Sam Kirby. Do you ever remember Sam Kirby?
I remember Sam. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was
So
sick.
I had a joint first in the top flight men's one year with Sam Kirby, after he spent a bit of time in Maui and he was doing all the mobs and stuff. And I think that was in 2003, and then, or 2004. But then straight after that, I moved to the PKRA and just followed in Aaron's footsteps in many respects. But
yeah, and you did the PKRA
just,
for quite a while, hey?
yeah, I did it for 4 or 5 years in total. But I hustled my way into it. I mean, such a thing as being a professional kite surfer didn't really exist when I started. So it was never like something that I ever thought about or really considered. There was no industry at the beginning. And by the time it came around to like figuring out how to get onto the world tour, it was like, I pulled some strings and slept on people's floors, and really, like, the first year was with Toby Bromwich, who got the job as the tour photographer, or maybe he was one of the judges at the time. But I just basically found out what flights the whole the whole PKRA crew were going to get on, and I would book the same flight, knowing that they would have like a shuttle bus or something going to the hotel that they're staying at. And I would literally, for a whole year, I literally just shadowed the event and just blagged my way and made it work. And then that was the year that I needed to get sponsorship, and then went from there.
Yeah, so that's one thing I think is really interesting for people, and a lot of kids and people trying to get sponsored. Like, how did you get sponsored for the first time, and who were your first sponsors?
Well,
how did it come about?
I was. So rewind in my story to where I first saw kite surfing in Maui. At that point, I was windsurfing, and I was like quite young to be windsurfing. And at that point, I was lucky enough to be approached by a talent scout for Quicksilver at the time, and I did go through and end up getting sponsored by Quicksilver.
Oh, wow.
Which was a really good sponsorship for many years. Actually, they just sent me clothes every month, and I mean, it was a lucky situation. But what that did for me is open my eyes to the realities of sponsorship, and of the product, of brands, and what brands need to have their image, and open my eyes to the possibility of that whole thing. And the fact that somebody was willing to give me free clothes and pay me a little bit of money just to ride a windsurfer, which I didn't even do. I switched to kite surfing straight away. It just made me realize that there was, some possibility there.
Yeah. So what was your first kite sponsor?
My first kite sponsor was Whippaker. So I was actually sponsored by Whippaker. Not many people can OG that. So yeah, Whippaker, then F1. Then actually, I think I rode Cocoon for a bit. But me and Aaron were on Whippaker at the same time. We had Whippaker Air Blasts back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah. Then F1, then Cocoon for a bit. Then I met that's when my life really changed in the kiteboarding direction, was when I met the North team, or the Boards and More team, which was Jaime and Sky and those boys in Fuerteventura, and that was in 2005. And that was when I was just wanting to get onto the world tour full time. And then, that's when I joined North and Boards and More, and Duotone is now. And yeah, so I've been with them since 2005.
Yeah, you were one of the first people on the Youngblood camp, weren't you? I remember seeing a video with you on that.
Yeah, I was sort of already sponsored
Okay.
before the first Youngblood, or I'd already met the guys and I'd been invited to the Youngblood camp, so I was kind of already like
Yeah.
selected in a certain way. But yeah, the Youngblood camp was an amazing initiative. It got almost everybody that I was on the Youngblood camp with became something in the industry, like Mallory de la Villemarquet, Cesar Portas, yeah, Andy Yates was world champion. He was at the Youngblood camp. Mark Jacobs. There's so many people that attended those events have gone on to do, good things within the sport. So it was proved itself in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool, those Youngblood camps, to get people into it. So
Yeah.
you said you did the PKOA for like 4 or 5 years. What were your best overall standings for the year? Any standout events and competitions where you
Man,
had a good little run? There was a lot of events, wasn't there? Like 10 events a year sometimes.
yeah, I did it. I think the most I did was 11 world tour stops in a year, mate. And that's that
Nice.
was, I mean, if you think about that, it's a lot of traveling. I did yeah, Italy, Venezuela, Brazil, Chile,
Yeah, there were some cool stops back
Germany.
then.
I mean, there are amazing stops, but for me, that's why I was doing it, was to see the places and have the excuse.
Yeah.
But I pretty much consistently placed 5th or 7th in the main freestyle event, which at the time I could earn probably between 1.5 to 2,500 euros doing that. So it paid, it washed its face in many ways.
Paid for the trip.
My best overall yearly rank was 11th, and my only goal really was to get 10th or top 10. And I was so close. And yeah, just it came around to discards at the end of the year, and I think I got 11th. But I was, for about 4 years, I was consistently in the top 15. And yeah, I came second in Fuerteventura. That was probably my highlight. 1 year, I was on the podium with Kevin and the boys.
Cool.
I think I was between Kevin and Aaron. I was between Kevin and Aaron, I think. I've got the picture somewhere. Cool. So that was probably a highlight.
One really interesting thing that I want to talk about is, you're filming and rip slicks. Like, when did you start taking interest in a camera?
Well, yeah, I guess that goes hand in hand a little bit with where I met you, in a sense. I mean, I've been filming for years, even, ever since I've been kiteboarding, I've been filming. Even before I was kiteboarding at a young age, I was filming things just for fun and enjoyment. And then I don't know what year it was. I think it was like 2002, 2003. I actually incorporated the company Ripslicks. So it's been around for a long time and in my mind for a long time. But as I grew with the sport and the knowledge of the industry and the brands, my, interest turned to video production and media and photo. And yeah, really, I guess because it was such a young sport when I got involved in it, I really wanted to show the sport how I wanted it to be seen. Nowadays you've got people with their own styles and people elaborating on tricks and developing things. Whereas back in the day, in the early 2000s, or, even late 2000s, or late first decade, there was nobody with their own style, or, nobody really leading the charge in terms of like what kiteboarding could be. And that really what got me into filming. And I think that's where, I intersected with you and James and Aaron more so as well when we did the Freeride project and we had the Freeride project years. That was just, that was like a manifestation of my experience within the industry, and I guess our combined visions with what we wanted the sport to look like.
It was kind of natural, wasn't it? We both, like, we started going to Triple S. That was when we started hanging out more.
Yeah, you're right. It was so genuine and so right, like the project and the way we did it, I think, at the time. And there are elements of the way we've we did that first movie, you know, in everything that I do nowadays, because we just made the most of it, what was available, and showed people what they wanted to see at the time. And I think, you know, proved to a lot of brands that there was more to kiteboarding than just the competition side of things. But yeah, so that we did the first one in 2011, and we started it in Perth in Australia.
That was, some of my fondest
How good was that
memories.
trip?
Yeah, we had that house. Remember the house with the tree house?
Yeah, that was one of the best trips of all time, for sure. But we scored. I mean, yeah, it was a great time in life. I think that goes hand in hand with why the movie came out so well, actually, because it was really a true portrayal of, you know, us just having fun, and you know, doing something that isn't contrived. And I think that's something to really watch out for nowadays for people, is trying to do something that is forced, or, you know, maybe not doing things naturally because you want to appear a certain way. I think we always had a good sense of self deprecation and a bit of sense of humor, so we managed to keep it quite real.
Going on trips to produce media, we were actually kind of like some of the first riders that really made producing media a thing rather than just competition. Because like before, there wasn't free riders, you know, or people producing content, because Instagram and social media only came around like at that time, like right when we kind of were, you know, stopping doing the PKRA competitions. Well, I only ever did 5 or 6 anyway, but it was like that time when all of a sudden social media was about, and it was becoming so valuable to the brands.
Yeah. Well, the distribution changed everything. Do you remember? So the camera that changed everything was the Canon 7D. That the you know, when that came to market, I was like, boom! I went from like DV tape handy cams to the Canon 7D, which was like pro grade quality, ease of use. And then the distribution blew up, and YouTube came about, which is now, you know, one of the best business plans that I can see in all modern inventions at the moment is YouTube. That Facebook came around. I mean, it all came in at the time when, you know, that's another massive luck factor, I think, for us and our generation, is we were in that time and in that moment when the tools were like, here are the tools.
Yeah.
Go out and create content. So yeah, we were the first generation of kiters, definitely, to put value in that and to sell that as an idea. It was good. Came out right.
I think also, like you say, we were lucky, but I also believe in, like, you make your own luck, you know, like you saw the opportunities as they came. Like, you know, we realized that it was more valuable for us creating these content than actually going to competitions. Like, I remember I was running for national at the time, and they were like, don't bother doing the PKRA. Like, we've got Kevin actually doing the PKRA. Why don't you focus on the video thing, because it's, you know, it's a momentum.
So, mate, the conversation I had with Aaron to convince him to get onto the free ride project train, because Aaron's like a serial competitor. Like, to be like so good at competing, you have to have a mind state that is just, you know, like, it just, you know how he is. And I'm like, mate, just come and hang out for a year. Let's just go and film and ride and like have fun. And you will push yourself, because you want to get better clips and you want to like do this, so you will improve. But to snap him out of that competitive headspace into the, you know, the value that is free riding, in terms of the creative aspect, was quite a challenge. But after he saw our video in Australia, he was in.
I want in on some of that. Aaron's always enjoyed having a good time, and like he's very serious, but also loves to let loose sometimes as well. And I think that part of him just couldn't help but come hang with the boys.
Mate, when you've got five world titles, world championships, mate, you can have a year off and go and make a movie, can't you?
remember we went to Russia, mate. That was one of the best,
Yeah.
craziest trips ever. I actually went first. I went first by
Hey, I
myself.
can't even imagine you going first on your own. And that's still one of my favorite reminiscing things when I stumble over the fact that you went there on your own, having been there with you, and realize how weird it was when we were there.
Yeah, when I went by myself, I was chatting to the event organizer on Google Translate, and I had no idea. And got there, like, took an internal flight. I was on the Black Sea, so in the middle of nowhere, no one English. And then got there to the airport, and he couldn't speak English as well. But he was such a cool dude, and we could somehow communicate, you know, because we're on the same level. I'd be like, "Oh, chicken, I need to eat, drink." We just about figured it out.
It's the only country that I've been to where you go to a bar and that does not mean I need a beer. Like, and you're like, man, like how? Just a beer. Just hit me a beer.
Yeah, and then it was so successful that we went back the year after and a couple of years after, and we had a translator and we had a crew.
Mate, we had a translator for the boys. It was another special time. Yeah,
that made it so much fun because we could just be like, "Hey, dude, this is what we need," and he just deal with it.
But this goes on to like handing it down. You know, not that we need to hand it down just yet, but at the same time, you know, in order for that sort of special thing to continue happening around the world, you need a special group of people that are willing to go and do it and support it and make it happen. Like the only reason that happened in Russia is because we could present, you know, a media pack and a vision for the way we thought the sport was going to go, and they got funding from their local, you know, areas. And I think that we were, you know, a big drivers behind that. I think everybody in the Kite Park League, it was just always about the people that were motivated, and something about park riding attracted a certain type of person that was, you know, hyper motivated to drag out a rail in the miserable cold to go and hit some stupid feature. I guess like somehow positioned in the dream world somehow, but like everybody involved in it was creative and motivated, and that was the seeding of the whole of the Kite Park League, I guess. You know,
it was a special time, wasn't it? Because we're all just, it was, you know, like 20 or 30 people all with the same mindset, and that's why it just flourished, because it was another, you know, genuine passion for doing something that just went from leaps to bounds at the time, and we really just rolled with it. And again, everyone involved was really motivated and also, you know, quite savvy within the industry as well. So we're able to actually bring in sponsors and, you know, help set up,
I reckon,
future events.
At one point, you know, where we were conceiving the Kite Park League and like moving it, you know, making it its own thing, you know, I think, you know, 70% of the, you know, world's most intriguing and interesting kiteboarders were involved in it, you know, or maybe not 70%, maybe 60, but like a, you know, a solid amount of the world's best riders and, you know, people that were doing interesting things within kiteboarding were involved in it in some way. So it's a special thing to have done, I think, starting our own world tour around a niche side of the sport.
We weren't ever trying to, you know, take over the world or think it was going to be this massive thing. It was just a general passion. I mean, we were just enjoying it, which again is a bit like the Free Ride project. It was just natural fun, which ends up in a good thing, you know?
Yeah, well, I think, that's classic kiteboarding in a way. People get overexcited about what, you know, the potential possibilities of the sport and maybe delusions of grandeur in certain aspects. And, you know, unless it's the same with almost everything in life. And I keep saying it in all these different podcasts and shit that I'm doing these days, but it's, if you gravitate towards something you enjoy, if you do something for the enjoyment of it, you will do it better than anything else you will ever do. You know, if you enjoy something, you will do it better and you will succeed in it and you will also enjoy doing it. So
that's it. That's such a powerful quote. I think, I heard it off someone. If you enjoy doing something, you do it the best possible way you can, it will take you somewhere cool, you know.
Yeah,
And
exactly
there's a good Will Smith quote as well. He says,
that.
you know, he says, you don't try and build a wall, you know, like we're not trying to build a world champion straight away. What you do is you focus on laying each brick as best as you possibly can, you know, and
And then
then
the
by the
wall
end
is
of it,
good. Yeah,
at the
yeah.
end of it, you've got a wall. And I think that really resonated with me, because I felt like that was something we all applied within our kiting, you know, like if we were going to do a park event, we'd pour all our energy into it and try and do it as best as we can. If we were filming, you know, for a free road project, we'd have, you know, structured filming sessions, and we'd really try and make the most of it. And we always, you know, we
Do
just
you
work
know
hard, play hard.
how long it took to land some of the tricks in that fucking video? Oh
Yeah,
my God. One of my biggest, I mean, like you would, I remember all of us going out trying the same trick for 3 months to get one version of it that we'd be happy to put in the video.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it's that commitment, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So the park events evolved, and then let's go on to the injuries, mate. I know it's a sad road to go down, but you know, it's a part of your career and your life. So talk us
Yeah, well,
through.
quite a big part, really, at the end of the day. It's funny, and it ties back into why I started Rip Slicks as a video production company, was because at the very beginning of when I got into like competitive kiteboarding, I realized that, you know, injury is, if there's one certainty in professional sport, it's injury. That's what I would say. It's not success. And I kind of always assumed that I would, you know, at some point I was going to going to blow my knee. So I'd always kind of,
I do remember it as a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, mate. I remember you
yeah, I
saying on
know. Well,
repeat
so
about your
yeah,
knee.
I used to wind people up about it. I used to wind you up about it, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
remember.
was a self-fulfilling prophecy. But the weird thing is it came out of nowhere. Absolutely, you know,
Yeah,
like I was prepared for it as best I could be, but when it actually happened, I was as unprepared as anyone ever, you know, like it was a big deal. And the first time, I think it was more of a big deal because I did it twice. There's a big lesson to be learned in doing it twice. The first time you blow your knee, you'll try and come back to be the person that you were before you blew your knee. The second time you blow your knee, you'll come back to be the person that you're going to be after you've blown your knee. You know, you won't ever be the same person again. And I think the when I came back from the first injury, I was really trying to get back to be that, you know, that park rider, that top level kite surfer, that guy that was going to like be able to land a different trick every session and go out and, you know, still sometimes surprise myself with my performance. But in reality, I worked every day, trained as hard as I could, and got back into it. And then intersects quite nicely with Noe and the bubble, because my first knee surgery, I trained my way back to film my section in the bubble, which was part of me trying to be that same guy again. And I came back from my first surgery, filmed a whole section of the movie for the bubble, then went to the Triple S and blew my knee again straight away at the event. And the second time I felt my ACL snap, and I literally had the biggest influx of deja vu and the biggest realization of exactly the reality, you know, of exactly what needs to be done to get this better again. That it was like, yeah, full psychological breakdown.
yeah, because
Followed
you
by,
basically took a whole year to recover from the first one, and then it was, you know, the same heat, same competition, but it
yeah,
happened.
same, mate, same heat, same contest, same time of year, same heat, same kicker on the same tack, and the same guy, Jason Slezak, picked me up on the jet ski in exactly the same way. And like the injury was the same. Like it was the gust of wind that hit me as I took off the kicker to do a toe side backside 5. just lost the bar and then just windmilled and just caught my back edge. And it was like deja vu, like 150%.
Yeah.
But in that second, I learned all the lessons that I needed to have learned the first time I did it. Like boom, like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
But out of every cloud comes a silver lining, and there's always, and one thing I learned from it is there's always positives to be taken. Like other things that I've now achieved in my life, I would never have done if it wasn't for the injury. And I still think that if you do go down the road of professional sport, the 100% certainty is the injury.
So now you got back to full fitness, and one of the first things, well, not first, but we went around the Isle of Wight. How it wasn't that soon after.
That was pretty early, actually. So I remember it being a fact. I remember it being a factor in my safety risk assessment that I did before the rounding. Thinking, do you know what? My knee could be an issue here, but it was fine. Yeah. So it took a year to come back and then blow my knee again from the first one, and then 12 months ish until the round the island thing that we did. And 12 months after the second surgery, that round the island day I've just actually uploaded an uncut version onto my YouTube channel the last couple of days. And cool. It was, it's one of the best days of kiting that I've had on a foil in almost ever, I think. It's good.
It was a lot of fun, yeah. It's crazy how you can do so much different things kiting. I think that's one of the coolest things, is that you can go from doing big jumps and Cape Town to getting barrels to foiling these massive distances. And it really kind of opened my mind to like, wow, we could cover so much distance on a foil, and who knows what kind of feats. And you still get that same feeling as like landing a trick or, something you worked on for a long time. It's like completing a feat like that, you're like, wow, this is awesome.
Well, I think it's a really interesting point, especially for people moving through their lives and getting to different stages in life and stages in their own performance. Like I honestly think that it doesn't matter how good you are at any one sport or anything, your only battle or your only competition really is with yourself. So if you get to a place in a sport where you're not improving and you're not feeling good with yourself after every session, your only option is to then move on to something different that generates you that same feeling of achievement. Like when we went around the Isle of Wight on foils, 100 miles in a day, 5.5 hours, I felt as buzzed out. I was so destroyed when I got back to the beach, but I was as buzzed out as if I'd won, if I'd come second in a world title race event, pretty much. I mean, it's a similar feeling. You realize that it's such a big sport, so many opportunities within it. Like you couldn't, if you chose any other sport in the world and tried to put as many opportunities as we have in kite surfing into that sport, there's no other sport. Like you've got five or six different disciplines with different styles, different ways of doing it, different conditions. I mean, there's so many opportunities if you look at it organically.
And people want to pigeonhole it as well, which frustrates me a little bit. Like you just get labeled, I've struggled to shake that like wake style guy, or like, but people should realize
you should wear that. You should also wear that badge of honor a little bit, like not many people actually can specialize. I think being able to specialize in a way is incredibly important. When you look at somebody like, you just keep using Aaron as an example for everything here, but you look at somebody like Aaron, he's specialized in every area of the sport, and for me that's why he is such a respectable kiter. There are other people, like other people that have been just as good as him in one area of the sport, or if not better, but they're not the same. They're not the same in every area. Like I remember back in the day when Aaron started getting some stick for not being able to wave ride, he went to Cape Verde and made a strapless wave riding section on a sea
I
kite
remember
unhooked
that, yeah.
back in the day. And you're like, mate, fair play. Like, if he wanted to be a pro wave rider, he could have been. But he just decided not to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, at the same time as being able to evolve, it's also important to find your niche and own it. That's one thing I've learned the last couple of years is figure out what your niche is.
I think a niche is easier to own. You start at a niche, you kind of develop your skills in that niche, and you develop your image in that niche and your name. And then if you get to a certain, height within that, you can then broaden your reach out into the other side, other areas of the sport. It depends on your capacity to multitask or be good at one thing and the next.
Yeah.
But what you don't want to do is cheapen the one thing that you can do well by trying to do everything.
That's also very important. Yeah, it's best to be the best at one thing, and rather than being all right at everything.
Yeah, well, no, you can be all right at everything. You can be good at everything, but you can't be the best at everything. You can be the best at one thing and shit at everything else, and it's fine. But if you can only be all right at one thing, you don't try and be all right at everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, there's always compromise, isn't there?
I'm pretty guilty of that. I always try and do too much and do like more things than I can handle. Or one, doing 5 things at once, and one thing could have been a lot better quality than all 5. Or there's different ways that happens.
It's hard to fight that FOMO though, isn't it? You want to get involved in everything. That's the thing, isn't it?
Oh yeah, well, exactly. But then that's down to your basic nature, and I think you need a certain amount of basic nature, energy and intrigue to succeed in something that you're going to pursue anyway.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon, mate? What's your plans for this year?
Well, mate, I could reel you through a list of plans that I did have if you'd like, but as to how they're all going to pan out, I have no idea. Let's see. I came back from Cape Town looking to get my schedule in order, and I've just been cancelling events left, right, and centre since then. I had 3. So technically, still on my calendar is my Slice of Life camps. We've got 3 more trips with Kite Worldwide, which are coaching camps. I do video coaching camps, very similar to the Freeride Project style, where I just film them and they try and improve in front of the camera every day, which is actually really good fun. But one was in Egypt, one was in Cape Verde, and one was in Tunisia. Let's see. Currently, at the moment, they're all outside the time that this quarantine is going to last. But let's see how we go. So have that on the cards, and then a couple of other private events, and probably some out of the box filming for Duotone and some Team Talk episodes, and just crunching content for the
that's
crew.
it. I think it's really important to see this time as an opportunity rather than a hindrance. It does suck that some of our traveling is going to be restricted for the next few months, but also I feel like it's an opportunity to maybe try and learn something, or for me, I'm getting on top of all my footage. I've got hard drives coming out my ears, so I'm trying to
I got hundreds of terabytes of hard drives right here. and I think it's a good point, because actually for a lot of people that I've talked to over the last week, I think the consensus is actually, if they could have, this is just what was needed, a global shutdown, and then you have like 3 months to get on top of all your footage or do anything like that. I think as long as you plow the time into something constructive, we'll be good. We'll get through it.
Yeah, exactly. I think we'll be stronger. I think it's what the world needed, just to Control Altdelete, just that's just because it was just
hit it on the old Mac operating system.
Yeah,
get the OS X on there.
Busy, running from one thing to the next, and no one has any time, and it was all fast food, and the world needed a big reset. It's quite crazy how the world has its own way of doing that. Just giving everyone exactly what they need.
Just ask mother.
Yeah. Without
Mother
it
nature.
even just slapping you in the face as well. Like everything, you just don't see it coming. We all had this year planned and just bam, like.
Yeah, well, it looks like we could be doing a few more of these at this rate.
I know.
I might book in my weekly spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Wednesday with Tom.
Yeah, mate.
Subscribe in the link below.
Discuss current affairs. Yeah, I should take this time to say that all the stuff that we've talked about, I'm going to list in the description below. All the videos, Tom's channel, Rip Slicks, the Round the Island, lots of stuff to list in there. So if you want to go down memory lane and watch,
it's going to be a source of entertainment. Hey, so yeah, big up to everybody out there that's chilling at home. We're all here in it together, and all you can do.
I might even fire up the Freeride project tonight. It's been a little bit since I've watched.
It's been a while since you watched it, mate. You could trip down that memory lane, mate. I tell you, you didn't edit it, so you can probably not remember every transition. But
yeah, you've probably seen it a few more times than me.
Just a couple of thousand, I reckon. Yeah.
Nice one, mate. Well, yeah, let's wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks a lot, Tom, for joining on my first tea time with Sam. Hopefully this recording worked. Fingers crossed. I might have to do it again. But
I tell you what, tea time with Tom just comes off the tongue quite a lot better, doesn't it?
So that was the first episode with Tom Court. It was cool, wasn't it? It was fun to do a longer piece and sit down and chat about his whole career. I switched between two videos, either the full screen or the two next to each other. Which did you guys prefer? I'd be really interested to know. Also, hit me up in the comments with any kiteboarders that you want me to interview. Let me know. Please subscribe if you're not already. Look out for the new one coming. Thanks. Peace out.